Hello and welcome to Narayana IAS. I am Pratik, your faculty for daily news analysis. Students, in today's weekly DNA, we are going to focus on 10 most important topics of the week. Anyone who has missed the DNA videos, you can refer to this video in order to ensure that you have not missed the important topics of the week. Make sure you're fresh, you have pen and paper to jot down the points, and make sure that you're in a position to understand all the topics. Right? So let us start with the first topic of the weekly DNA, and the title is Indian Peacekeepers Serve with Commitment, says the United Nations, which is a very big statement, right? So what is the context? The context is that India has been a key contributor to the United Nations peacekeeping. We'll understand what exactly is peacekeeping, right? So the United Nations Under Secretary General for Peace Operations, this official or this Under Secretary General official remarked India, praised India for India's contribution in the peacekeeping missions across the world. Right. So, first and foremost, let us try to understand what is United Nations peacekeeping. It is a mechanism through which United Nations deploys forces in conflict zones. Like every country has a military, even the United Nations has a military. Every country contributes soldiers to the United Nations peacekeeping. And the purpose is peace, security and stability. It is based on three principles. First is consent, that is the parties who are fighting, they should give consent, permission. Second, impartiality, no biasness, and third is non-use of force. You can use force only in self-defense. The purpose is to establish peace. That's the reason we have United Nations peacekeeping. What is the objective? To prevent conflict, right? And maintaining ceasefire, that is temporary cessation of fight. Temporary cessation of fight means, which means both the parties have agreed to stop fighting. Preventing civilians and human rights, supporting political process and helping in post-conflict reconstruction. Right? Now, what is the structure? It is managed by the Department of Peace Operations. It is managed by the Department of Peace Operations. They are funded through assist contribution, which means the United Nations member, they actually contribute, they actually fund the United Nations peacekeeping operations, right? Now, talking about India's role, India is one of the key contributors, major contributors to the United Nations peacekeeping, which means we have deployed close to 5,500 personnel as of 2024. Right? Now, India ranks 4th. These are Nepal, Rwanda and Bangladesh are the top 3 countries contributing the highest soldiers or maximum soldiers to the United Nations peacekeeping. Right? Now, Indian troops have been deployed, for example, in the African continent as well as in the Asian continent as well. Asian and African continents are the places where the Indian forces have been deployed, right? Now, the peacekeepers, Indian peacekeepers have gained global recognition. Why? For their professionalism they show in the conflict zones, for example, helping the people who are injured, right, and ensuring that there is peace established in the region. This is about the India's role in the peacekeeping missions, right? Now, the next topic is Georgia and the resurrection of the color revolutions. Now, color revolutions can be asked in the prelims examination, right? So, what is the context? The context is that this topic discusses, right, This topic discusses the color revolution in the post-Soviet states. Now, these are the post-Soviet states. Now, all these countries that you can see in the map were part of the USSR, were part of Russia. That is, Russia was actually looking after all these countries referred to as USSR. Now, the context is that in these countries, in all these countries where the governments were pro-Russia, the Western countries intervened with the help of the rebels, oppositions. They dislodged the government that was actually supporting Russia. Where Western backed uprisings sought to replace pro-Russia governments. So the governments in these countries who were siding with the Russians, the Western countries intervened with the opposition to dislodge the government supporting Russia. Right, this is the context. So now what are the color revolutions? They are non-violent uprisings, right, that took place in former Soviet states, the countries that it can be seen in the map, right, aimed at overthrowing pro-Moscow, which means Russia, pro-Russia governments, and replacing them with pro-Western democratic governments. This was the purpose of color revolutions. Now, the revolutions are named after colors. For example, Rose revolutions in Georgia, Tulip revolution in Kyrgyzstan, and Orange revolution in Ukraine. So, question can be asked, color revolutions, recently seen in news, is referred to which of the following options, or is referred in context of what? So, in context of the former Soviet Union countries, right? So, I hope you understood the essence, right? The essence is the Western countries with the help of opposition will dislodge the government that is siding with Russia, and then they will establish government that supports the Western countries like America, France, UK, etc. This was the purpose of color revolution. However, according to the Russian perspective, Russia says that this is undue interference in the domestic matters. The Western countries are intervening in the domestic matters and they're actually trying to reduce the Russian sphere of influence. Right? Even despite the disintegration, Russia has a decent influence in these countries. Now, Russia says that Western countries want to reduce the Russian sphere of influence, and that's the reason Russians were against the color revolutions. Now, the next topic, constitutional morality. Right now, this term, it is a recurring theme, it's a recurring topic. So, let's understand what exactly this term is all about, right? Now, in recent years, the Indian judiciary has adopted or is adopting or is following or referring to this principle, constitutional morality, to give judgments. So, what exactly is constitutional morality? We'll learn. What is morality? Morality, which means these are the principles on the basis of which what is right and what is wrong is decided. It actually guides individuals' behavior based on the moral principles, moral standards. For example, now these individual behavior is guided by the religious norms, the societal norms. So, again, morality varies from person to person. For example, let's say for someone, live-in relationship is not a moral thing. For some other person, live-in relationship is a moral thing. So, it differs from person to person, and these choices are, influenced by religion, culture, philosophy, social influence, personal experience, education. So, this is morality. Now, what is constitutional morality? Which means adherence to core principles and values which is mentioned in the constitution, that is justice, equality and liberty. You are adhering the decisions, the action should adhere to justice, liberty and equality. It requires that the actions and policies, the action the government takes or the law, the policy, the decisions the government takes, whether the action and policies or whether the end result of the actions or policies is justice, equality and liberty. This is what the Supreme Court or the judiciary is looking into it. Is based on their alignment with these which principles? These principles. So whenever any action or any decision is challenged, the judiciary will see whether the action taken or policies are in alignment with justice, equality and liberty. Right? And this term was first used by Dr. Baba Sahib. Now these are some of the examples. For example, in the year 2009, right, the judgment decriminalized consensual same-sex relationship, the gays, the lesbians, the bisexuals. It was a criminal offense. Now it became a non-criminal offense. Why? Because it's a matter of choice, liberty. If it's a consent between two adults, then there should not be a problem. That's the reason it was decriminalized. Now, then in the Sabrimala case, the Supreme Court allowed the women to enter the sanctum of Sabrimala temple. Why? On the basis of equality. Why should women not be allowed to enter the temple? Third, Navtej Singh Johar. Now here, the Supreme Court read down section 377. Now this section 377, it criminalized homosexuality, same-sex marriage or same-sex relationship. Now the Supreme Court, the NAS Foundation was with respect to Delhi High Court. Here the Supreme Court said that 377 is unconstitutional. It allowed for same-sex couples to stay together. And then Joseph Shine case, now this decriminalized adultery. What is adultery? When a married woman enters into a physical relationship with another man. First, it was a criminal offense, now it is decriminalized. Why? On the basis of equality. I hope you understood the concept of constitutional morality. The next concept, Pradhan Mantri Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana. Now, as part of the union budget, Finance Minister announced this scheme, Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana. What is the purpose? To enhance irrigation and land fertility. That is to enhance the fertility of the land. Right? How? By providing quality seeds and fertilizers to the farmers. This scheme will be implemented in areas where the land is infertile, barren and undeveloped. It will cover 100 districts based on 3 parameters. One, the area which is low in productivity, moderate crop intensity and below average credit parameters. Credit is money. Now this again a very important point for your prelims. It is implemented by which ministry? Agriculture and Ministry of Fisheries. Very important point for your prelims examination. It draws inspiration from aspirational district program. Now what exactly is this program? This program was launched in the year 18 that focused on improving the underdeveloped districts of our country. The 100 districts, the focus was given on the 100 most backward districts. Right? And which are the objectives of the scheme? Now this is very simple, you can read by your own. The purpose is to enhance agriculture. How? By enhancing the fertility of the land. The next topic, the right to information is now the right to deny information. Very important, right? Now the context is the right to information which was meant or which empower the citizens by giving or by allowing citizens to get the information from the government. The same tool is being used to not allow or not allow dissemination of information to citizens. How? Let us understand. First, what is right to information? Now, this law was made in the year 2005. What was the purpose? To empower citizens to seek information from the government. Let's say, for example, the government has constructed a highway. So, how much money the government has spent? A scheme has been launched. How much money the government has been spent? How many people benefited out of that scheme? You can file an application based on that. The government has to provide information. What are the key provisions? Right to information. Every citizen has a right to request information from any its public authority, not private authority. Second, public authorities must designate PIOs. Every government office has to have this PIOs, which means citizen can file an application before the PIOs, and then it is the responsibility of public information officials to provide the information to the citizens. Obligation of public authorities. They are required to proactively disclose certain categories of information to reduce the need for citizens to make formal requests. Now, time frame. Once a request is made, the information should be made available within 30 days of the request. And if the information pertains to life and liberty, the information has to be given within 48 hours. Very, very important point for your prelims. And if the PIOs, if they fail to provide information, then penalties are imposed or sanctioned against the PIOs if they fail to provide correct information. And citizens can also appeal against the information given by the PIOs. These are the provisions of the RTI application. Now, then we have the central and the state information commissions. These commissions at the center and every state, they will see the overall implementation of the Right to Information Act and exemptions. Now, you cannot ask about the national security details. You cannot ask about the national security strategy against Pakistan or China. You cannot request the government that I want to understand the strategy that you have against Pakistan and China. No. There are some subjects where or the information regarding certain topics or subjects can be exempted, like for example, national security, personal privacy, intelligence organization, the cases of courts, and commercial confidentiality, which means any information which is very, very confidential. Now, which are the provisions used to deny the information? Section 8 of RTI Act allows information to be withheld if it pertains to personal matters with no public interest or if its disclosure would invade privacy. So, Section 8, if you seek information about the personal matter, then this information can be denied. Second, the 2000 Supreme Court ruling suggests RTI could harm administrative efficiency, right? Labeling it as a potential tool for misuse and justifying the denial of information. Then the Digital Personal Data Protection Act of 2023, this section 8 was amended to exempt personal, which means personal information cannot be given as part of RTI. Then these legal and statutory provisions have contributed to the culture of so these are the provisions on the basis of which the government refuses to provide information to the applicants. Right. Now, the next topic, the impact of ethanol on the environment. Right. Now, ethanol production, right, in the context of India's ethanol blended program has been a subject of intense environmental and social debate. Why? We'll understand. First, what is ethanol? It is a type of alcohol. In the chemical words, it is expressed as ethyl alcohol, and this is the chemical formula. Commonly it is referred to as grain alcohol or drinking alcohol. It is volatile, it catches fire easily, and all these points are important for your prelims examination. So, by heart these points. And how the ethanol is produced? Two methods. One is fermentation, which is referred to as natural method. The second one is synthetic method, chemical method. Now, under the natural method, we have raw materials, that is using sugar cane, corn, rice, wheat, right? Then this is the process, and then using the chemical method, which are the raw material used, petroleum based ethene and water. So, please remember the two methods, natural method and chemical method. And this is the most important point for your prelims, use of ethanol as a fuel. Why are we using ethanol? So as to use as a fuel. How do you use as a fuel? You can blend ethanol with petrol. So E10 and E20 represents, so E represents ethanol and 10 represents the percentage mixed with petrol. So E10 represents that in a liter of petrol, 10% is ethanol, 90% is petrol. So the purpose is to reduce our dependence on the fossil fuels, reduce our dependence on the oil. And these are the uses of ethanol. One, fuel, then in the alcoholic beverages, industrial solvent, medicine and pharmaceuticals, chemical industry, antifreeze agent. So I want you to remember the uses of ethanol, because these questions are asked in the prelims examination, right? So please read by your own, and if you want to know more in detail, you can download the PDF that's available in the comment section or in the detail section. Now, what is ethanol blending? That is what we discussed, that is ethanol is mixed with petrol, E10, E20 we have discussed. Now, the government has kept a target to achieve 20% ethanol blending by 25-26. As of now, we have reached around 13 to 15% as on 25, right? And then India needs to produce 1000 crore liters of ethanol annually. I hope you understood what is ethanol blending program. Next, India's olive ridley turtle numbers improve, but climate skews sex ratio. So, first we'll understand the highlights of the study, which was conducted by Dakshin Foundation in collaboration with the Indian Institute of Science and the State Forest Department. Now, highlight or the study says that the number of olive ridley turtles is stable or increasing. But due to climate change and rising sand temperature, it is leading to higher proportion of female hatchlings, which raises concerns about long-term viability of the population. See, the temperature of the sand, it determines the sex of the the female, let's say, do we have the term? Yeah, of the turtle. So if the temperature is warm of the sand, it determines the sex, which is female, So if more and more female, right, are, let's say, are given birth to, then there is a concern about the viability of the population, because you need a male and female for hatching. As the temperature is increasing, the sand temperature is increasing, it is resulting in more females than males, which affects the population or sustainability of the population. Now, mass nesting known as Eribada, where lakhs and lakhs of mass nesting happens, right? It occurs at Gahir Mata and Rushikulya beach, which is located in Odisha. These beaches are very, very important for the hatching of the olive ridley turtle, right? So world's largest nesting sites, 4 lakh to 5 lakh turtles nest at these beaches in Odisha. Please remember the names. And which are the other turtle species? One is the leatherback turtle and the other one is green turtle. This you find in the Andaman Islands and this one you find in the Lakshadweep Islands, right? Other than Andaman, you find in Madagascar, Mozambique and Western Australia. Now talking about the olive ridley turtle, the scientific name, the smallest sea turtles globally, right? And they are carnivorous, so all these features are asked in the examination. Aribada, this was asked in the examination. What is it? It's mass nesting where thousands of females nest on specific beaches at night and leave by daybreak, right? And this again becomes very, very important. The conservation status, it is mentioned in Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act. Then the International Union of Conservation for Nature mentions vulnerable status of this olive ridley turtle. Then the Convention of International Trade of Endangered Species mentions olive ridley turtles in Appendix 1, which means the trade of the turtles is prohibited. The trade is prohibited. And these are the efforts in order to preserve the population of olive ridley turtles. Now, is there a right to take offense? What exactly is this term? Now, this term arose especially after the controversy that was doing the rounds, especially after a YouTube show in which certain vulgar statements were uttered, certain obscene comments were made, right? I am not going to name of the show, neither the name of the people involved, but something very ugly was uttered in the show. Now we know that right to freedom of speech and expression is a fundamental right under Article 19. But is this right absolute? No, this right is not absolute, which means there are reasonable restrictions, which means I cannot speak or say anything which can cause disturbance in the society. For example, I cannot incite a group of people against the other group of people. No, I cannot. If I say something that can cause a disturbance in the society, if it goes against the public morality, certain rules, standards, values which the society subscribes to, then such speech or such freedom can be curtailed. Such freedom can be curtailed, right? Now what is right to take offense? Which means that if an individual or a group is commenting against you or against a specific person, then you have the right to take offense, which means you can challenge that person in a court. You can challenge that person in a court. Refers to individual or group's reaction to speech, expression or content that they find objectionable. So let's say if someone is saying something because of which I get offended, this is referred to as right to take offense, which means however the Indian constitutional law does not recognize this right to take offense, which means tomorrow let's say even if a truth is being spoken which at times can hurt people, then the people who are hurt can take the other person to the court stating that it is our right, it is my right, I got offended. This is not recognized by the Indian courts. So the right to take offense, which means refers to an individual or group's reaction. I am reacting to some other person's comment. This is referred to as right to take offense. So while people may feel offended by certain statements, I can feel offended because of certain statements, merely taking offense does not make the speech. So if I am taking offense to a speech, it does not make the other person's speech illegal, not necessarily. right? Now here you need to remember the two tests which is important for the examination. One is the Hicklin test, the other one is the community standard test. Now these days the courts refer to these standard with respect to deciding whether a speech or expression is obscene, vulgar or it is not. The Hicklin test, right, it defines obscenity as anything with a tendency to deprave or corrupt, right, which means if something said, spoken or written, if it is actually corrupting the minds of people, then such a thing can be prohibited or banned, or action can be taken against that person. Anything with a tendency to deprave or corrupt, right? So this test is used, for example, let's say something very vulgar is said and which actually offends a person, or let's say which has a tendency to corrupt a person, then that speech right can be, or that action can be banned. The community standard test is a more contemporary approach, which means is a legal science used to determine obscenity based on the moral and cultural norms of the society. Now, in the community standard test, the moral and social norms of the society are taken into question, which means what is being said, is it aligning with the, let's say, the public morals or it is not. So this is the difference between Hicklin test, where anything which could, let's say, corrupt a person's mind, which may be true but can also corrupt a person's mind, was considered illegal or it was banned. But now under the community standard test, it is no more the case, right? Now, UNESCO heritage tag sought for Shivaji's forts. Now, people from Maharashtra have are in Paris. Why? Because to submit a proposal under which they want certain forts to get the tag of UNESCO heritage. Right? Now, the evolution of Maratha military landscapes spanned from the 17th to the 19th century. Under the reign of Shivaji Maharaj, that is around 1670. It continued until, again, this part of medieval history which you learn. Now, out of more than 390 forts in Maharashtra, 12 forts have been selected under the Maratha military landscape, out of which 8 forts are protected by the ASI. So 12 forts, the Marathi or a group of delegation from Maharashtra requesting that these forts should get UNESCO heritage status. Now, which are the key features? They are noted, the forts are noted for their exceptional fortification and military systems. Fortification, how strong the forts are. Military, how well equipped they are to tackle an enemy. And these include innovative designs like leveraging the natural topography for defense. For example, if a hill is, let's say, situated, or if a fort is situated on a hill, then that provides natural advantage. Extensive use of local materials and establishment of network of forts for strategic control. Now, what is UNESCO? It is a designation given by, this is an organization, right? Now certain places around the world are selected that are considered, the places are considered to be of outstanding universal value to humanity. These are the treasures which has to be preserved for the future generations to witness and experience. Types of sites, it can be natural, cultural or also mixed, right? And this World Heritage Committee decides which sites to inscribe on the World Heritage site. So this committee decides. It means this committee meets once a year and will review the nominations and make decisions, right? And once it is placed, or once it gets the designation of UNESCO status, which means it gets the protection of the World Heritage Convention of 1972. Now these are the criterias, these are the criterias on the basis of which it is decided whether a site, a place should get UNESCO status or not. And what are the benefits? One, you get global recognition. Second, tourism increases. Then the state governments, the national government is expected to preserve that monument, that place. Why? Because of the UNESCO heritage site, and the place also gets access to funding and technical assistance from the UNESCO. The next concept, the surveillance capitalism, the power to control personal data. Now, what is surveillance capitalism? You know that whenever, let's say, we use Instagram, Facebook, Amazon, we are feeding our personal data in those applications, which means we are actually marking our choices. So these companies, they actually collect the data of every individual. Now, with the help of the data, these companies can influence our behavior. They can promote the products based on our choice. They can promote the products, which means the products will keep on flashing on our screen. Why? Because the companies have gathered our data, on the basis of which they have understood our choices, and on the basis of our choices, they are promoting the products. This is referred to as surveillance capitalism, where the personal data is collected, analyzed, and sold by the tech companies to predict and influence human behavior. It can also be sold to other companies. Companies like Google, Meta, Amazon track every click, search, and even offline activities detected. And then detailed profiles of users are made, they are built. This data is then used to influence purchasing decisions. And here, data as raw material. Now, unlike traditional capitalism where goods and services was into focus, right? The surveillance capitalism profits from extracting human behavior data, the data that we unknowingly feed in these systems. This very complicated, very smart. So again, this is referred, so a question can be asked, surveillance capitalism recently seen in the news is related to which of the following? So you'll get options. I hope you understood what is surveillance capitalism. So that's it, students. I hope you understood all the 10 topics of the day, right? So all the 10 topics are important for the examination. Make sure you have understood all the topics. If you want more detailed information, then you can please refer to the last week's DNA, right? And in those DNAs, you will find a detailed description of these topics. The purpose was to help you with those points that is important and can be asked in the UPSC examination. On this note, I'll call it a wrap. Thank you so much for watching.